Okay. Now we should be recording. Not, I'm sorry. From here, I have set up a GitHub repository for us to post all of our websites to, so we can check out what each other have been working on. And it'll also be an opportunity for you to further explore these web development topics on your own time. And then we can come back to them in a couple weeks when we go over more advanced topics and see what we've done on our free time. So I'm going to post this link into the Slack. And all you're going to have to do is, once you're inside of your folder, you just have to type git clone, and then you paste that link and hit enter. Oh, okay. I should have just done that. All right. Is Windows not come with Git? Okay. Thank you.
I think you have to do like a Git configuration too, like with username and like name or something like that, like an email and a username before you can. But I don't know if you need that.
Yeah.
I know you know to like initialize a repository.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna clone, and then for now, we'll work on that. You're right, though. We'll cover that later. It's not it doesn't matter right now. Okay. I'm gonna type that command general too. If you run what I just put in there and then you type in your password for your computer, that'll let you get Git. So for people that don't know what Git is, it allows you to make edits to code and then come back and look at it and say, oh, I didn't want to make that edit to the code. And then you just come back to your previous restored state. It's like saving a file multiple times, but being able to save each iteration of that file. So has everybody made it to this step? No? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no worries. You can't what?
He's having trouble installing.
I think it's sudo install Git, not Git.
Oh, Mac's weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't not have Git on it already.
No, he's trying to install the developer tool.
Okay. And that's not just letting you with your password. Works.
Because I actually know.
Alright. Maybe just turn it off. Turn it back on. Mac should have Git going. You just have to download those developer tools.
What do you put in the Git file?
Oh, so the university already has. Does that just pop up when you do this?
That popped up when I hit the link on Slack.
Okay. Yeah, for the university, we have a whole paid GitHub account thing going. So if you just log in with your university credentials, that's what you gotta do.
It is not licensed.
No.
The university is not- no.
Is, what's the URL?
//
Maybe you have to create an account. It's been a long time since I've done this. You might have to create an account and then just use your credentials. You're gonna use this for future classes, so don't make up a random username.
Yes, upgrade from my usual, 10 headset.
Like, well, I have like after the speed of. Okay, my house is like 5. Oh, no.
Mine is like one.
No.
You know, this step would be cool. I think we can just skip it for this week. It's really not that important. I just wanted to expose you to Git, and clearly there's some things I need to work through still. I'll work with Victor next week to make sure it works on Windows and it works on fresh Macs. I'm sorry, we're just gonna move past it for now, and it doesn't affect anything else we're doing. It's just a little bit of a bummer. So now at this point, you should have a folder at least, even if there's no Git involved. And all you got to do now is you're going to make a new file. One way to do that is just, this is really small. Okay. Is that easier? Okay. So you're going to make a new file, and one way to do that is just by typing touch and then the file. The other ways, you can just open your text editor. How many of you have only used Nano? Okay, that's totally fine. I just would recommend you get a more beefy text editor that is more capable. One that I like a lot is VS Code. I don't want to start a war, but I like that one. John?
Would Mac work?
Yep, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm pretty comfortable with code. So once you do that, you can just write either Nano into the file, just like you do for CS1, or if you want to download VS Code, you can get it set up. So just by running code, it brings it up. At this point, I'm going to switch my sharing. All right. So the first file you're going to make is going to have the extension. It's going to end with .html. And all that's saying is that this is just like C++, this is going to be the HTML language. How many of you have no experience with HTML? Okay, perfect. So HTML is pretty different from every other programming language you've used, even if you've only used C++, just because it isn't a programming language at all. It's just a markup language. It makes what you write look fancy. It doesn't do any logic. It doesn't do math. It's impossible to do math. It just makes things look cool. That's why it's called a markup language and not a programming language. The first part of every HTML file you're going to start out with doc type HTML. There have been 5 different big updates to HTML, and this is just telling you that you're using the latest one. Oh yeah, thank you. Okay. Should be easier. This is just telling us the latest one. And the next one down, a lot of these are not actually important. I just did a command where I just typed exclamation mark and then went with it. That's called, it's a tool set called Emmet, and that just makes writing HTML and CSS, we'll get to that later, a lot easier to get going. We can talk about that in the future. Ignore these things. Anything with the meta tag, ignore. In every HTML file, the markup language is consisting of tags, and some tags, like you see here, anything with the triangle brackets, that's a tag, and they open with the original tag, and then you have to close it just like close parentheses with the backslash or with a slash tag. Some are self-closing tags, and we'll get to that later, but yes, every HTML file has the doc type and then an HTML body. Everything on the web page has to be included within the HTML tags. The 2 big parts of websites are the head and the body. Once again, you need both of these parts in order to have a website. The title here, this is the one part of the head that's here that actually matters. This is what shows up when you're on a website and you go to search for something. Let's say I'm going to search for GitHub. All right. This right here, where you're seeing GitHub where the world builds software, that's its title. And that's what the search engines say, okay, this is what I'm going to display to the user. And all this head, all the stuff within the head tags, that's just for search engines and for web crawlers, things like that. Doesn't actually matter to the user a whole lot. I mean, it'll show up at the top in the tab, and you can put the little icon up there. That's about the extent of the head tag goes. Everything else that you see on a web page is within the body tags. So there's a lot of different tags that you can throw on the body, but we're going to cover the most basic ones. And the most basic ones will carry you very far. So we're going to start with some headers. We have 6 different types of headers. It goes from H1 down to H6. And the only important thing about the number is H1s are a lot bigger, and the H6 are smaller. Go ahead and run the terminal. And to open a web page, all you have to do is type open index.html, and it'll automatically pop up in your default browser. So as you can see here, This is our H1 and this was our H6. Are people able to follow along? Like I said, there's a bunch of in-between ones. Another big tag is the paragraph tag, and that's just P. And just type anything you want there, and that'll just be formatted as a paragraph. So we can go ahead and update. We open, there we are. There's a paragraph. And as you notice here, this text here that's written in between the tags is going to be formatted as the tags tell it to be formatted. Does that make sense? Okay. The next tag we're going to cover is lists. There are two types of lists. There are ordered lists and unordered lists. We're going to start with unordered lists. You know, the tag for that is unordered list is UL, and then LI is the list item. If you just have UL and start typing stuff, you're not going to actually create a list. You need the LIs to make each item. So we can write apples. Oranges. And we're also going to do an ordered list. Just type the same thing. An ordered list is just like unordered list, except it's an OL instead of a UL. And now you can see this is our unordered list. It just uses bullets. And our ordered list keeps track of the order of the items. Can anybody think of one big use of unordered lists? John?
Things that don't have any order of importance. They're just like things to keep in mind, or like tags.
What's one on pretty much every website that has a list of things? Order doesn't necessarily matter. Exactly. So if you go to nearly any website, there's going to be a nav bar at the top where you can say, oh, I'm on the home page or the contact page. That's probably an unordered list, just formatted really nicely. Within these lists, you can actually have other lists. And you just keep going as you'd expect. Now, the next one we're going to cover is the A tag. And all this does is, this is our first self-closing tag. All right, come on. All right. We look at here, update. There's not gonna be anything there, but we can add an attribute to our tag to tell it to go to somewhere. So this is going to be our links. Update. Oh, gotta spell that right. It's ahref. That's just telling you this is a reference to a website. And now if we click on it, that's fair. It'll take us to our website. And if we want to do some more cool things, we're going to just go ahead and copy all of this down into a new file. Call whatever you want. Copy, paste, save it. Are people able to keep up, or am I going too fast? I'm totally fine with slowing down. All right, where'd you get stuck? Okay, okay, I gotcha. Time where we at? Sounds good. I want everybody to learn this stuff. So even if you don't learn it now, feel free to contact me. I'm pretty approachable and I want to help you. So we're going to move on to our next file here, and you can open this one the same way as you would before. Here we are. Now, what we can do is we can get these pages to reference one another. All we have to do is figure out where we are in our computer. That's if you type PWD, that's present working directory, and that just gives you where you're currently at in your terminal, or where you're currently at on your computer from the terminal. And all you have to do to reference the next page is type / index.html. And then when we update home, it'll take us to index. And even though it's the same page, we can go clear it out to prove it to you that it actually did something.
Changed in the
And now we got our pages talking to one another. There is a lot more that we can go into with HTML, and we will talk more about stuff. There's forms you can do. There's a ton of stuff. We're not going to cover that at the moment because it's not that important compared to the styling of the sheet. I mean, ultimately, HTML has the content, and it looks pretty ugly at this point. It's just black and white, no colors. There's no way to change any of this stuff. But if we add another language called CSS, cascading style sheets, we're going to be able to change everything. So all we have to do that is go up in our head and type style. And within this, we're going to be typing a completely different language. But dude, you know what I'm looking for? I'm trying to figure out, there's a, just like we had href here, there's something special you need to type next to your, close. It's telling it that we're doing CSS and not just some random style thing.
Styles different.
We'll get there. Okay, okay. That's what I was thinking of. Apparently we don't need to do that. So cascading style sheets is going to be another weird looking language. Probably nothing you've seen quite matches CSS other than JSON. If you've worked with those types of files, it's kind of like JSON. An important note with cascading style sheets and HTML, the code runs from top to bottom. There's no looping. There's no way to get it to go back up to the top. So when you write code or you're writing your style sheet, just keep that in mind because it will be interpreted from top to bottom. That'll matter more later. So within your style tag, you can go ahead and write. We'll start with something like this. What this is going to do is it's going to take all elements that are of the P tag, and it's going to turn them into You're going to take them from black to blue. There we are. So now it's blue. And if we want to select multiple things, you can just try comma, P, comma, H1. And now our H1 will also be blue. And you can go ahead and throw whatever colors you want down here. You know, you got red, you got a ton of different colors. You can also do hex colors. So I'll just turn it back to black, but yeah, I've got, this is one of the cool things about using something like VS Code versus Nano. You can actually, you know, have plugins that make your life much easier.
I think I have that if we need it for Python, so that-
So any color is available. Don't be limited. You can also change the font size. You do 10 pixels. It's going to make it height of 10 pixels. You can also do 10M. I don't know what that means. A lot of people use the M. I think you also do 10%. That's font size. Do font family. I don't know if that'll work. We'll do this one. Let's just try it. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
So what this is saying, you can do this with any of these tags. So it wouldn't work as well with a color because that should just work the first time. But let's say you're running up on someone's computer and they don't have Comic Sans downloaded. All you have to do is to continue having control over the formatting, because otherwise it'll just default to what it was before, and that's ugly. You want to still be able to control what they're viewing. And all you have to do is just continue listing things off until we're out of space. And I'm pretty sure this is just monospace, or maybe it's probably Courier. I don't think it's Comic Sans because I don't have Comic Sans. It doesn't know what that is. So it's just defaulting to the next one.
So it's not doing all of them, it's just like if that one isn't there, it'll go to the next one.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can also add borders to things. Formatting here also, you're going to want all your semicolons. You don't need semicolons after these brackets, but, and likewise, we'll get to that. There are probably over 1,000 different CSS tags, and it can be hard to remember what all of them are. So that's another nice thing about having plugins in your editor, because it makes things easy to remember. All right, let's go back. All right. W3 schools, I would recommend their site. They cover all the important information. I learned a ton from going through there, and even though it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about at the moment, I've learned a lot from this website, and it's good. There we go. Okay. So when you do your border, you gotta emphasize that it exists, and then you can give it a color. we're gonna open up, not that. Indeed. What is that? Okay. This is really small, but I'll tell you what this box says. This is important to know when you're doing CSS editing. Basically, we're looking at the developer tools on Chrome, and Chrome is used by a lot of developers just because it's developer tools. If you go to if you try Command Alt J, that will bring you up to the JavaScript console and bring you to the Chrome tools. It's also up here. I just can't remember what it is.
Are you talking about inspect element?
Yeah, it's basically inspect element, but you actually have more power. Okay,
It is.
Try- perfect. F12 on Windows. So this right here, this is going to tell us, hey, there are 4 different frames within a web page. It's called the document object model, and you have your base content here. That's highlighted in blue, and then you have padding, and we don't have any padding, so nothing's showing up right now. But that it allows you to shift things like this border here. I'll add some padding to show you what I mean. So I just shifted it over within its border. So now when we go to padding, this, the blue is the content, the green is the padding, orange is, or the yellow, which is just the red dotted line, that's the border, and then the orange is the margins. Thank you. You can modify all of these, and we will in the future. Keep checking. Now let's say we want to have a couple different H1s. Say hello world. Hello red. And hello blue. And we want each of these to match their colors. So right now they're all green. We want hello red to be red, and we want hello blue to be blue. All I have to do on that is give it a new attribute. You can add this to any HTML element. Just give it an ID, and we'll call this hello red, lowercase, hello blue. And to call out this ID, we're gonna do a hashtag. Right, okay. So there we go. It highlighted just the hello red element. We can do the same thing for blue. And now let's say we have apples and oranges, and we want both of them to be colored orange. What we would do here is we make a class. So the thing about IDs is that only one element can have an ID, where a class, multiple classes can have, or multiple elements can have the same class. So if we tried to reuse the hello red ID, wouldn't work. But since we want to reuse the orange class, we can't use an ID for that. So here we go, we'll make it orange. And now we got a class going that colors things orange.
The fact that get the dot instead of the pound.
Exactly. Now, within this, CSS can get even more complicated. You can have, let's make an ordered list inside of this ordered list. Has anybody that's been following along, have they fallen off track in the last 5 or 10 minutes? Okay. Now, if we wanted to target just ordered lists inside of ordered lists, we could do that by doing OL here. And this is saying OL greater than OL. This is saying all OLs inside of OLs. We're going to give them the color green. Green, yep, green yellow. Yep, this is the same for any type of element. Everything here, P's, H1s, if you replace H1 with A or like OL with A, it all works the same. And we can do another example to show that. Something that got me really confused when I first started, which might not be an issue for you, is I thought like class names or ID names, that there's something inherent about them that mattered. No, you can change these to be whatever random thing you want. And as long as it's consistent, that's all that matters. So now we look here and it doesn't work necessarily how we expect. Now, like I said before, cascading style sheets reads from top to bottom, but this seems to have read from, seems to have gone out of order a bit, and that is because it gives different hierarchies to different elements. Classes will override other styling. So that's why not all of these are this green color, because they too have the class formula. See here. Now, there is some positioning. Obviously, this is really ugly, even still, with all our styling. And with our unordered lists, like I was saying before, everything I've shown you, no matter how much you try, you're not going to get them to be in line with each other, like a normal nav bar would. To get things to look nice, one way to help that out is we're going to introduce a new HTML element called divs. And what divs let you do is break up content into blocks. If you look at the border here, you can see that when HTML gets interpreted, it sees H1 tags as this whole line across the whole screen. That can be helpful in some circumstances, but let's say we wanted to have two H1s next to each other, that's not going to work out very well because it thinks, oh, well, I can only have one per line. What divs are formatted differently. They have very strict sizing and they just include what it's needed. So if we had included this hello red inside of a div, and div is just short for divider. I'm going to do something else. You know what I'm doing wrong? Okay. Anyone else? Anyone see an issue? I'm trying to get the div to work like a div, and it's working as a span right now. Let's see. I'm just trying to emphasize that divs are different than spans, and I tried to put a span object inside of a div. Oh, that makes sense. Never mind. Okay. We change the width. There we go. I'm a bit rusty. I need to update my skills. Now it's going to access a div. All this is saying, like I said, by default, most tags in HTML are going to behave as spans, and spans span the whole screen. Divs are divided by the screen. Now we can have multiple of these on the same line. So if we wanted to, we're not going to mess with that because positioning in CSS is really difficult. And that's going to be an exercise of homework that I'm going to send you with actually. There's a couple websites here. I'll throw them in Slack. One's called Flexbox Froggy. This one? Yeah. Yeah, I'll throw all that stuff in there. I'll also throw it into the Webdev group. So this game is just going to teach you how to use the CSS tags for alignment. There's Flexbox Froggy, and there's another one for the other type of system. I'm not even going to bother teaching you because it's best taught through experiential things like this. I don't really know what to add on that. The games work really well. Most other tags, pretty self-explanatory, you know, or the color is going to be orange. There's nothing crazy about that. Positioning, if you say, oh, you're going to be positioned in the center of the center towards the right at the bottom, you know, that's when things get complicated. So I highly recommend you go through this. It took me about an hour to work through it all. And then after this, very important, try practicing it on your computer because it'll go away instantly. It does not stick. It's not intuitive. Just keep working at it and keep it fresh. Otherwise, it's gone. Is there any questions beyond this? We're going to go into more detail. There's a lot more to be said about Webdev. This is just barely scratching the surface. All right. If not, then feel free to head out, take any leftovers you want, and I'll see you next week.
Where is this recording?
I'll make I'll make an ACM YouTube channel. I'll make an ACM YouTube channel. I'll send out the unlisted video into Slack.